Salvete viatores, and welcome back to Let's Translate Eutropius' Breviarium Historiae Romanae ab Urbe Condita. Last time, we read about Tarquinius Priscus, the good Tarquinius, who built some good stuff, including the beginnings of the Circus Maximus and the Cloaca Maxima, and we had a bit of a pronunciation conundrum. But moving past all that, we continue on right now. So, after this, post hunc, Servius Tullius, our subject, suscepit, took up imperium, power. So after this, meaning after Tarquinius Priscus was murdered, Servius Tullius took up power. Genitus ex nobili femina. Right there. That's the whole preposition. So genitus, born, ex nobili femina, from a noble woman. In fact, her name is Ocresia. And she was a noblewoman captured, captiva, tamen et ancilla, yet a captive and a slave girl, or sometimes I see this translated as maid, but I like to make sure that people know. She was ancillae are slaves, not just hired maids. So, yeah, Servius' mother, she was a noblewoman from the city of Corniculum, which was captured by one of the previous kings and made a slave in the palace, and Servius was born in the palace and actually raised up there. So for the whole sentence, after this, Servius Tullius took up power, born, or the son of, born from a noblewoman, or the son of a noblewoman, yet, tamen, a captive and a slave girl. Hic quoque Sabinos subegit, montes tres, quovenalem, viminalem, esquilinum, urbi adiunxit. So here, also, he subjugated, marking up first, so here also, he subjugated the Sabines. And this is a whole phrase, so montes tres is actually the object of adiunxit. He added to the city 3 hills: the Quirinal, the Viminal, and the Esquiline. And in fact, with that, Rome's collection of the 7 hills is complete. We have the Palatine, added by Romulus when it was founded. Ancus Marcius added the Aventine and Janiculum. Tarquinius Priscus added the Capitoline, as far as I know, though, because that's the first time it was mentioned. And Servius Tullius adds the Quirinal, Viminal, and Esquiline. So yay, all 7 hills. Fossas circum mudum duxit. Okay, this is kind of weird, honestly. I mean, mostly just duxit. Duxit's kind of weird. So, most of the time, you're going to learn that duco, which is where duxit comes from, means to lead. It's also related to the word dux, which means leader. But it can also mean produce, make, or build, that kind of thing. Which is how it's being used here. So he built trenches. Alright, here, circum is not like a circus. It is actually a preposition. So, around the wall, he built, or sort of like made, trenches around the wall. So here, also, he subjugated the Sabines. He added to the city 3 hills, the Quirinal, Viminal, and Esquiline, or just Quirinal, Viminal, Esquiline. He built, or made, trenches around the city, the wall, or city wall, I guess you could say. Primus omnium censum ordinavit, qui ad hoc per orbem terrarum incognitus est. Est, erat. So, no, hold on. Primus omnium censum ordinavit, qui ad hoc per orbem terrarum incognitus erat. So, first, primus is he was the first, ordinavit. I think this is best translated, like, it's in the indicative, so it's saying, it's literally saying he organized, but I think it's best to, for what it's trying to say, to have it be in the infinitive in English. So he was the first to organize. In fact, primus omnium, the first of all to organize, censum, a census, qui, which, I'm going to translate this the more fun way. Qui, which, erat, was, incognitus, unknown, or, no, word order, best word order, qui, which, erat, was, ad hoc, hitherto, incognitus, unknown, per orbem terrarum. It's literally through the orb of the lands, basically just unknown by the whole world. The whole world was unknown to censuses. So which was hitherto unknown by the world, or whole world. That was a short sentence. So he was the first of all to organize a census, which was hitherto unknown by the whole world. So, sub eo, Roma, good enough. Omnibus in censum delates habuit capita octogentetres milia civium Romanorum cum his, qui in agris erant. So, sub eo, under him, meaning under his rule. So omnibus delatis is an ablative absolute, literally being with everything having been like received, reported, accounted for, that kind of thing. I'm gonna go with reported since it's a census. So with everything having been reported, or just with everything reported, in censum, into the census. Censum is accusative here, so it's into, not in. Roma, Rome, habuit, had, capita octoginta tres, 83 milia, thousand heads, capita. Basically, there were 83 83,000 people in Rome, according to this census. Civium Romanorum. Well, heads. Civium is genitive, modifying capita with possession. So heads of Roman citizens. So there were 83,000 citizens in Rome at the time. Cum his, with these, qui, basically those who erant were, in agris, in the fields. So those are the people who were living technically outside of the city, the main city of Rome, living on farms outside of the fields. And before we finish up, I want to talk more about this census, because as it is implied with Eutropius going out of his way to say that it had been a census had been completely unknown to the entire world up until this point, this is kind of important. It's pretty important. So let's talk about that for a minute. So I just wanted to take a minute and talk about this census in more detail, because it is fully described by the historian Livy, who is also Eutropius' main source, so I thought it would be best to pull from him, rather than... there was another historian named Dionysius who also wrote about the census, but I'm going as Livy describes it. So what this census did was not only count the number of people that were in Rome, but also counted their wealth, in particular their capital, which was mostly land and livestock. I'm pretty sure slaves were included in that too. And all of that, their property, estimated into ases. Now, these aren't donkeys, and they aren't butts either. These are 1 foot long rods of copper, each one called an as. The census also divided people into classes depending on how many ases they were worth, and further divided each class into centuries, consisting of around 100 people. These were further divided into seniores, who were men between 45 and 60, who were to guard the city itself, and juniores, who were men between 18 and 45, who were to fight in the actual army. Now, Livy lists each class as follows. The highest is people worth 100,000 or more ases. This class was divided into 80 centuries, with 40 of them seniores and the other 40 juniores. The next is between 75,000 and 100,000 ases, which was divided into 20 centuries, 10 of which are seniores and 10 are juniores, though Livy doesn't actually specify the number of seniores and juniores. After that is people worth between 50,000 and 75,000, again with 20 centuries, 10 seniores and 10 juniores. Fourth is people worth between 25,000 and 50,000, once more divided into 20 centuries, 10 seniores and 10 juniores. Fifth is people worth between 11,000 and 25,000 ases, and was divided into 30 centuries. Livy doesn't even bring up the seniores and juniores here, so I can only assume it would be a 50-50 split again. Anyone who was worth less than 11,000 ases were just lumped together in a single century. The people of these classes were also required to provide their own arms and armor according to their station, except for the lowest class, because they're actually exempt from military service. I would list each class's armaments, but I'm trying to keep this brief. You could go and read it for yourself if you'd like. Lastly, I'd just like to add that if you were a Roman, you had better not miss the census. Livy says that Servius threatened people who were not present with prison or even death. He took it very seriously. So yeah, don't mess with the census. And now, continuing on, Okkisus. Oh, oh. Our pattern's broken. Dang. Also, I guess a guy got murdered, but our pattern, though. Okkisus est scelere generi sui Tarquinii superbi. Filii eius regis, qui ipse successerat, et filiae, quam Tarquinius habebat uxorem, sorry. So he was murdered. Scelere is ablative of means, I think, by the evil deed of, well, I suppose, there, of the generi, Gener is son-in-law. That's it. By his son-in-law, or by the evil deed of his son-in-law, Tarquinius Superbus, which is in the genitive here because it's an apposition to generi. Same with filii. The son of his king, meaning the son of Tarquinius Priscus, whom he himself had succeeded, and his daughter, whom Tarquinius had as a wife, or was having as a wife, I suppose. It's in the imperfect, but had as a wife sounds better. So he was murdered by the evil deed of his son-in-law Tarquinius Superbus, the son of his king, whom he himself had succeeded, and his daughter, whom Tarquinius had as a wife. Basically, she was married to him. And you want to know the saddest thing? According to Livy, and I quote, Servius now took steps to assure his position by private as well as public measures, in order that the sons of Tarquinius might not show the same animosity towards himself which the sons of Ancus had felt towards Tarquinius. He married his 2 daughters to the young princes, Lucius and Aruns Tarquinius. Oh, poor Servius. And this is the Lucius Tarquinius, by the way, as it will actually be directly said next chapter, but on that dour note, we will continue to the Latin reading and the English reading. Post hunc, Servius Tullius suscepit imperium, genitus ex nobili femina, captiva tamana et ancula, hic quoque Sabinos subegit, montes tres quirinalem viminalem esquilinum, urbi adiunxit, fossas circum murum duxit, primus omnium censum ordinavit, qui ad hoc per orbem terrarum incognitus erat, sub eo, Roma, omnibus in censum delatis, habuit capita 83 milia, civium Romanorum, cum his, qui in agris erant, occisus est scelere generi sui Tarquinii superbi, filii eius regis, qui ipse successerat, et filiae, quam Tarquinius habebat uxorem. After this, Servius Tullius took up power, born from a noblewoman, yet a captive and a slave girl. Here he subjugated the Sabines. He added 3 hills to the city, the Quirinal, Viminal, Esquiline. He made trenches around the wall. He was the first of all to organize a census, which was hitherto unknown by the entire world. Under him, with everything reported into the census, Rome had 83,000 heads of Roman citizens. With these, those who were in the fields. He was killed by the evil deed of his own son-in-law, Tarquinius Superbus, the son of his king, whom he himself had succeeded, and his daughter, whom Tarquinius had as a wife. Until next time, where we start reading about Tarquinius Superbus and his reign. And yes, his reign is dealt with in multiple chapters, and those chapters are very long. So, we're going to be focusing on him for a good few episodes. But that makes sense, since his reign is the last and leads into the beginning of the Roman Republic. Walete, Veadores.